Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone. How are you today? I hope you are in good condition. Okay, we are from fifth group. We will discuss or we will present about the factors contributing to the language shift and how to maintain a minority language. Okay, today's presenters is me, Ilpa Rahmawati, and my partner is Nuraini Anihaniati. Okay, the first material is about definition of language shift and the factors contributing to the language shift will be delivered by me. Right? According to Risnawati 2019, the first language is called mother tongue, heritage language, and native language. According to Fishman 1971 and Baker Jones 1998, language shift is when a group progressively abandons its language of origin, at the same time adopting the language of the socially or economically dominant group. While Anderson 2009 state that the language shift is a process in which successive generations of speakers, both at individual and at community levels, gradually lose proficiency in their mother tongues or the language of their speech community in favor of other languages. So, it can be concluded that language shift means a shift or displace of one minority language mother tongue to a language of wider society. Okay, next, the example of language shifting is from Anderson 2009 in his study of Ghanaian's language. He found that the Ghanaian parents exposed their children to use English, their ex-colonial language, in everyday language and in the school. And he stated that these parents believed that the acquisition of English as a first language would enhance their children's intellectual, social, and economic development. Next is about the factors contributing to the language shift. There are several factors associated to language shift. They are bilingualism, economic and social factors, political factors, demographic factors, and also value and attitude of the language factors. So, one factor of the language shift is bilingualism. Bilingualism is the use of two languages equally in order to communicate with other people alternatively. A certain language is gradually like in speech acts, which are associated with majority language, for instance, religion and education domain, and minority language, for instance, family domain and friendship domain. The second is economic factors. Language shift often reflects the influence of economic factors such as the need for work. People may shift both location and language for this reason. Obtaining work is the most obvious economic reason for learning another language. The third is social factors. Immigrants who look and sound different are often regarded as threatening by majority group members. There is pressure to conform in all kinds of ways. Language shift to English, for instance, has often been expected of migrants in predominantly monolingual countries such as England, the United States, Australia, and New Zealand. Speaking good English has been regarded as a sign of successful assimilations. Okay, next, political factor imposes on language shift. In a multilingual country, the authority usually chooses one language as the lingua franca to unify various kinds of ethnic groups. Consequently, the number of ethnic language speakers decreases. For example, the official languages of many African countries were determined by their former colonialists. Philippines is also a multilingual country. The next factors is demographic. demographic factor plays the role in the process of language shift. When there is a region or a country whose language is different, there is a tendency to shift to the new language. Resistance to the language shift tends to last longer in rural than in urban areas because rural groups tend to be isolated for the centers of political power. The rural people can meet most of their social needs in the ethnic or minority language. And the last is attitudes and values factors. Attitude and values is also a crucial factor influencing language shift. Holmes 2001 points out some aspects contribute language shift, not highly valued of the language, and the language is not as seen as the symbol of ethnic identity. He also assumes that positive attitudes of speakers supports efforts to use the ethnic language variety of the means. These attitudes help people resist the pressure from the majority group to shift to their language. Okay, that's all from me. The next material is about language maintenance and maintenance of minority language will be delivered by Hani. Hani, time is yours.
Okay, thank you. And the next is about language maintenance. Okay, according to Tannenbaum in 2003, language maintenance is a multi-phase concept. It may revert to the actual use of minority language as well as to immigrants' attitudes towards it, proficiency in various skills, and so forth. Language maintenance has been downplayed in the literature, and understandably so if we consider that shift is more spectacular than maintenance. Language maintenance for most people is taken for granted. It becomes interesting only when a language survives in a context situation where it is normally expected to disappear. Okay. And maintenance of minority language. Language is considered an important symbol of minority groups' identity. The language is likely to be maintained longer, although the pressure to shift is thin. Members of minority community can take steps to protect its language if we consider the influence of social factors such as participants and setting. For instance, in language choice, it is clear that social factors may help resist the influence of economic pressures. And then we next to the kinds of institutional support for maintaining a minority language, which divided into the support of the language policy and education's effect in maintaining minority language. Okay, the first, the support of the language policy. According to Guo Huxiang in 2013, in order to maintain the diversity of language and protect minority language, experts suggest that everyone can learn 3 to 5 languages, but not everyone has language developed language learning talent and learning conditions. In these discussions, language policy plays an important role. Language policy is of great importance for status and protections of minority and cultural language as well as the construction of a harmonious society and people of all the nationalities. And then the second, education's effect in maintaining minority language, which include into the importance of the bicultural. Biculturalism has the ideal of equal, harmonious, mutually tolerant existence of different and diverse language, and of religious, cultural, and ethnic groups in a pluralist society. Two languages and two cultures enable a person to have dual or multiple perspectives on society. Okay, the next, the education's effect in bicultural. The impulse behind bicultural education is very largely a positive one. There are two important points which should be considered. The first is the implication that schools possess power for social change, which history shows to be rare. Okay, schools acting in relative isolation from other social currents and the imparting of bicultural awareness and its Ramifications are, unfortunately, often largely seen as educational matters which can proceed independently and have a very limited potential. And education in bilingual societies. There are two important contextual aspects in the development of the education of linguistic minority children, that they usually come from a developed linguistic background, and because they often come from socially deprived communities, so their literacy or skills are less well developed than those of the dominant language children. Okay, and the last one, oh no, sorry. And the next, school education's effect in language maintenance. School is traditionally a strong arm of culture, and central to its aims has always been a strong emphasis upon language. The control of language use has, in most cases, one of two objectives: language maintenance or language shift. Okay, and the last one is the importance of families' education. Some scholars said that, in fact, the rise of language use can ensure the survival of the language. It ultimately depends on the mother tongue user's decision. It definitely confuses the institution because it beyond their control. Thus, it is said that the establishment of a school or declarement of some language as an official language is easier than to let the family members talk with their kids in their own minority language, and however, only in the way of latter can the minority language be heritage, which indicates the official language policy didn't exert so important influence in the family. So therefore, in any case, if we make the language survive in the daily life, these official measures are not enough. Okay, we next to the conclusion. So language shift occurs when a community of users replace one language by another or shifts to that other language. Although language shift can thus occur at the level of the individual speaker, it is shift at the level of an entire community that is associated with widespread language replacement and loss. The factors which trigger the shift vary from one language community to another. Some of them are bilingualism, demographic, attitude and values, economic, social, and political factors. And language maintenance and revitalization programs are response to the language shift and are undertaken by communities who perceive that their language is threatened by a decrease in usage and under threat of loss. Okay, that's all from me. Thank you so much.
Okay, I think that's all from our today's presentations. Thank you for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.